Hey gang, Mark LeBlanc welcoming you back to the Alley Cat Workshop. If you like to take long walks in the woods, you probably would like to get a stick like this, a walking stick. So this is two pieces, a long stave, a handle, just a lanyard to hold on. The stave is pretty long and basically goes to right underneath my shoulders. Now, in my previous video, what I did is I worked on an extension for my lathe. This is why, so that I can turn these staves in one piece, no connection, and just have a really nice long walking stick. So, let me explain the setup and let's get turning. Alright, so here's my setup. I have a piece of poplar, and I'm using poplar because it's a relatively easy wood to turn. It's a relatively soft wood. I've tried turning with this setup maple, and it was a challenge. And I tried it also with white oak, and it was also a challenge. So I decided to use something that's a little bit easier to turn in terms of the wood softness. Because this is so long, I can only turn at a very slow speed. And the other thing too is it gets to be, there is quite a bit of vibration. Now, you notice here that there's a line, that's basically the midway point of the stave. So what I am going to do is I'm going to start by rounding this up, and as soon as I've got it rounded up and pretty much to the right diameter, which is 3/4 of an inch, then I'm going to move my steady rest, move it into position and secure that section, and then I will start to turn this section right here and turn it into round. Once that's done, flip it over and then complete the rest. Like I said, this is you need to be patient. This takes a long time to turn, just because of the slow speed and because of the setup. And from time to time, I'm going to secure the jaws on my chuck, just to make sure that everything's secure. I'm also going to check at the other end that my live center is still very much in action. So, just to give you an idea, this is what it looks like at very slow speed. This is at basically 480 RPM. I'm going to boost it up a little bit, but for the beginning it's going to be around that speed just to begin the turning and get it done. And you can see there's already some instability. It's not perfect in terms of being straight, but it is what it is. And yeah, let me get set up, let me get dressed up, and I'll reposition the camera and show you what it looks like. One thing I did not mention in my intro, but I feel is pretty important. Before setting the stave on the lathe, I knocked off the corners, so instead of having a square piece of stock, I ended up with an octagon shaped one, which accelerates the turning quite a bit. I hope that makes sense for everybody. So we've achieved, it's now pretty much round, almost well rounded. I'm going to work on the diameter and then I'll set up the steady rest. But this is what it looks like, folks. It's very slow going, but so far, not so good, not so bad, not so good. Jesus. So far, not so bad. Okay. Let me finalize this, set up the steady rest, and I'll get back to you after to turn the rest of the stave. So I attack this turning by focusing on small sections of the stave at a time.
I would start off by getting most of the material off using my rough and gouge. Then I would use a parting tool and I would find my final diameter in a couple of spots. And once those spots were set, then it was just a question of connecting the dots from one point to the other with a spindle gouge.
Well, that went actually a lot faster and a lot better than the first time I tried this. There's a lot of tool marks, namely because of the slow speed. It is what it is. But the other thing too is I'm not the greatest turner in the world. So the next step for me is to sand this part of the stave that I just turned as much as I can. Get that done. And then after that I'll flip it. So let me go ahead and do all that sanding, and then we'll come back when we flipped it around. But it's going well. Progress. I've got the second half pretty much rough turned. But now I've had a dilemma. If you look at my tool rest, I can barely get it beyond where it is right now, and I've got a section here and a section here that's not turned. So what do? Simply move the steady rest along. Now this is getting a little bit more iffy, but it's what I need to do is just move the steady rest along and give me a little bit more space so that I can finish it little section by little section at a time. All right, so my stave is fully sanded. It looks good. I'm happy. The last thing I need to do is I need to cut a tenon in this section because this is going to go in the handle. Now the handle I will do next, but just so that you get a look, this is a prototype handle, and there's a 20 millimeter hole at the bottom of this, and that's where the stave is going to go in. So I need to cut that tenon. That's the last thing I'll do, and that's the last thing I'll do tonight. After that, time to go in and enjoy the evening. All right, let's get this done. Shouldn't take too long. So I've got 4, 5, 6 staves done. So I got a good quantity of walking sticks and I'm going to switch gears now and start focusing on the handle. So I've got a piece of, I believe this is maple, so it's nice and hard. It was pre-turned, God knows when. So this is my point here is that this is an ideal time to take care of some of your scraps. So I've got this piece, and I'm going to turn it into a handle, but before I do that, I'm going to pierce for a hole for a lanyard. And let me bring it to the drill press and show you how I do it. So you guys know how I like simple solutions to simple problems. So since this is round and I want to use my drill press, it's not going to be stable. I just use the piece of scrap, cut a V-groove, basically a bed, in which I can put my piece of maple, and just easy peasy, time to drill. Alright, let's go back to the lathe and turn a handle. I'm getting ready to turn the handle. Now before I do that, I'm going to drill a nice long hole. And I've got a 20 millimeter Forstner bit, and I've got an extension. This is the second time I actually use this tool. But it's going to enable me to get a hole, basically the whole length of my Forstner bit into the handle. And the reason I want to do something that deep is I want to put a couple of matches inside of the handle head, so that if you're ever stuck in the woods and you're in an emergency, then you can break this handle and get a couple of matches to at least start a fire. It's a pretty cool trick, and it's a good selling point. So let's go ahead and pierce this thing. All right, I need to apply some pressure. Now using a homemade jam chuck to hold the handle in place while I remove the excess material from the tip, which will also allow me to sand it and apply a finish. for fun, let's put a little bit of color on here. So I got this stain here, eggplant. Let's try it out. Alright, so first coat, let it dry a little bit. By the way, I'm running at the slowest speed on my lathe. I'm at 465 RPM. And let's see what we can get here. Oh, that looks pretty nice. Remove the excess. I thought this was going to look awful, but yeah, it's not bad. Not bad at all. Let it dry, we'll put a second coat. Alright, and to finish things off, now that the stain is dried, quick coat of mineral oil, and that will be the finish for this piece.
At this point, the project is pretty much done. It's just a question of gluing the handle to the stave and adding a lanyard to the handle. I even put a rubber protector on the bottom of the stave. Thanks for watching, folks, and do subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Leave me a comment. Love to hear.